This episode is brought to you by Indie Film Hustle Academy, where filmmakers and screenwriters go to learn from top Hollywood industry professionals. Learn more at ifhacademy.com.
I said, I can't do it the Hollywood way, the LA way, so I'm going to do it this way. I was in New York I had moved back to the city, and I really set out to do Salvador, which was a gigantic film. Again, I'm crazy. Set in a Civil War country in 1980s. We started in 85. A journalist I knew, Richard Boyle, a wonderful, wonderful friend, Irishman, had been there and had a whole story with the death squads down there and with a woman. And he'd written about it in his notes, and I took that and with him made it into a screenplay. And I dedicated myself to making this movie at any cost. I would not quit until we made it. I was going to use my own money. At that point, I accumulated some money from screenwriting, so I had enough to maybe get a bigger loan at the bank. I had a couple of houses that I owned, and so forth and so on. So I was scheming to make this film for $700,000. Now, this involves helicopters, it involves Civil War, it involves involves death squads. But Boyle was so sure that we would get cooperation from in Salvador, which is a very cost-wise, very inexpensive country to shoot in, but they never shot a film. So it was an insane proposition. It shows you how desperate I was, but I wouldn't give up. And I wrote the script with him, and it was a good script, but nobody wanted to touch it because, again, it was critical of the U.S. foreign establishment. Oh, God, I've just been so many rejections in my life. I have about 10,000 now, I think. You know, I'm sick of it. I'm good at rejection.
But you got...
something of mine the other day, important to me, and I kind of shrugged. It just doesn't end, rejection. I mean, I think that's the best advice I can give. John Daly was introduced to me as an English independent film. He'd just come to Hollywood. He was making his first steps. He was doing a film with the Falcon movie with Sean Penn, and he was doing, he'd been involved with Terminator, the first one, but had problems with Cameron and him, had not gotten along, and blah, blah, blah. And also he was involved with...
Okay, so many. It's hard to keep track.
He'd done a nice job with the Gene Hackman movie.
Yes.
Gene Hackman with the basketball movie.
The Hoosiers.
Hoosiers. I love that movie. And so he was trying to make good films. He had some taste. Although he was not known for it. He was a boxing promoter in Africa doing the Ali fight, one of them. And he had a shady reputation and so forth and so on. But he was a lovely scoundrel. I loved him because he was a Cockney. He was unpretentious from the lower classes. And he didn't have any respect for the establishment. So he was that kind of guy. He read Salvador and he read Platoon. I swear this is a true story. You never hear it. Very rare story, but he read both. And I went in to see him. By the way, I met him through Gerald Green, those people who care. Gerald Green was another character. They were both kind of con men, but they were nice. They were good guys, but they were scraping by. And I sat in that meeting, and John said to me, God, bloody hell, the good scripts, both of them. Which one do you want to do first, Oliver? That's a classic dialogue because you just never hear that shit.
Never.
No one says yes like that. No one says, they all say maybe and then they forget it. Or they all say no, but they don't really know what they're talking about. So anyway, I said, I want to do Salvador because it's fresh, it's new, and I'm not going to do Platoon because I almost made it 3 times and it got destroyed on the way. It never get made. It's a fucking cursed film. So here, Salvador. So I started on Salvador, and he actually helped me get it made. And there was some road. It's in the book. It doesn't end there. There was so many problems making that film. Jimmy Woods was great, but also an extremely prima donna, and at that time, and I've become great friends with him. But my God, he made the road. He was the star of the film, and anyway, we pulled it together with about $4 million, $3 million, and the money was always questionable. You never knew if it was going to show up the next day. That kind of movie. It was so pasted together, and you know what? It works. Go see it again, please do.
No, it's a fantastic film. There's a rawness to it. It's so raw and it's so visceral. It is remarkable. All right, so then you do Salvador, and then I get
that almost killed me.
Right.
You know,
And then you just jump into another small movie.
90 speaking parts,
Right.
Civil War, helicopter battles, all kinds of shit, tank battles. But we got it. We somehow finished it, and we ran out of money several times. It's a great story. Then John says to me, and we have fights all the way through the editing because John is concerned about the violence and the length and all. I had all the usual issues. Big vision. 3 hours, I had to cut it down to 2 hours and 10. And the violence, oh God, they rejected it. Every fucking studio distributor in Hollywood rejected that movie. That was heartbreaking. It was good. It was a good movie, but too much violence, too much.
At the time.
Anyway, so what does Daly do? He says, fuck them. I'm going to make my own distribution company. And he did. He made this Hemdale distribution company, and he literally distributed the film himself in April of '86. It doesn't open. I mean, he doesn't have any money to really distribute it, but at least it gets on the map, and there are some decent reviews. People begin to see it, and they get excited about it, but it takes time.